I want to share my story and get some feedback or advice. I met my wife, and right from the start, we just clicked. We were crazy about each other and decided to build a life together. We moved in 2006, and by 2008, we were married. Life was good. We were happy, and even though I didn't make a huge salary, we got by. We dreamed of having kids, and in 2011, our daughter was born. It was a beautiful time, and we couldn't wait to raise her together. But when our daughter turned 1, things started to change. My wife, who used to be so calm and easygoing, began having outbursts over the smallest things. I couldn't figure out what was going on. No matter what I did, it felt like she was always upset with me. She criticized me for the littlest things, like putting my mug in the wrong spot, or the way I looked at the TV or computer. It seemed like there was always something. One day, I just couldn't take it anymore. I told her I was leaving, even though I didn't have anywhere to go. I grabbed my keys, got in my car, and drove to work. I ended up staying there the whole night. What surprised me was that she didn't call or text me at all. The next day, she finally reached out and told me I needed to check out of the place we were living in because her parents were selling it to help us buy an apartment. So I went over to the apartment, packed up my things, and left. As I was walking out, my mother-in-law asked, "Where are you going?" "Go home." But my wife interrupted, "Let him go wherever he wants." I decided to head back to work instead. While I was there, I got a text from my wife. "I saw my husband today," and didn't even react. He was embarrassed in front of my mom. I dropped hints to her about you. I was confused at first, not understanding what she meant. It didn't make sense. How could she be saying something like that to me? But after thinking about it, I realized she must have sent that message to the wrong person. I called her immediately, asking, "So that's why you're always on my case?" She denied everything, claiming it was meant for a friend. I didn't know what to think anymore. Later on, I found out she'd been talking to an old guy friend of hers behind my back. To make things worse, I learned that she had been bad-mouthing me to her parents for a long time, poisoning their opinion of me. So I went to talk to my father-in-law, showing him the message as proof of what had been going on. But he just shrugged it off, saying, "No, that's not true." As we were talking, my wife walked in, and without missing a beat, she snapped, "Why are you dragging my parents into this? You need to fix yourself first." Then she stormed out. Eventually, she called me to apologize, and I ended up forgiving her. But it's been a struggle ever since. Even though I knew it was probably a bad idea, I couldn't resist the temptation to snoop through the contacts on my wife's phone. What I found shook me. There were multiple messages between her and some of her old classmates, confessing their mutual attraction to each other. They even made plans to meet up. Requests like, "Take me for a ride in the car," or "Come over for pancakes." At first, I thought it was some kind of joke, but she quickly realized her mistake and started deleting them. Other than that, though, I never noticed anything else that seemed out of the ordinary. For a while, life seemed to improve. I started earning a decent salary, and we were able to live comfortably. My wife would work off and on, switching jobs frequently, but we mostly relied on my income. As my salary went up, so did her expectations. I did my best to keep up, always indulging her requests, buying her a new phone whenever she got bored with the old one, getting her a tablet, and even paying for her license exam. Once she got her license, of course, she wanted a car, so I bought her one too. Looking back, I realize how foolish I was. But what could I do? If I said no, she'd accuse me of being cheap, and we'd end up in an endless argument. Then came the fall of 2013, when everything started to unravel. She was working as a pharmacist at a nearby pharmacy, and one day, I was off work with our daughter since she didn't have daycare that day. My wife suggested we take a train ride together, so we did. We stopped by her workplace and then continued on our journey. Here's where things took a turn. After we left, a man came to her pharmacy. and they met there. It didn't sit right with me, so I dug deeper, and eventually I found out about another scandal. To my horror, I learned that she had been on birth control without telling me. When I confronted her, she said it was to avoid getting pregnant. Naturally, I called her parents. They were shocked, as you can imagine. They came over, and when they talked to her, she just exploded, yelling at them, blaming everyone but herself. It was clear that things had spiraled beyond her control. Later, I found out the worst part. She had actually cheated on me at the pharmacy itself. I was devastated. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. But she slept like a baby. When I found out, I decided I couldn't stay anymore. I packed up my things and started to leave. But she begged me to stay, claiming she'd realized her mistakes and was scared of losing me. She promised she'd change, and for reasons I can't fully explain, I forgave her. She quit her job at the pharmacy and stayed home. 6 months later, I decided to take a vacation. I invited my wife and daughter to join me and my mom on a trip to Italy. We planned to visit my hometown first, as the train to Italy wouldn't leave for another 10 days. After 3 days, my wife started feeling unwell with a stuffy nose. I took her home and arranged for a clinic to perform nasal irrigation for her. She insisted I continue the trip without her, and after some hesitation, I agreed. But I made sure to leave some people behind to look after her. I then went on to the village, thinking things were finally starting to calm down. During my vacation, I received some troubling news from the caretakers of my friend. It turned out that not only had my wife gotten her nose treated, but she was also engaging in some very questionable behavior. Despite everything, I sent extra money for her care, trying to stay calm. But what came next really shook me. I ended up taking the sedative to calm myself down. It turns out my wife had a fake Facebook profile where she was meeting men and having sexual relationships with them. While I was working a 24-hour shift, she was sneaking around in different places, outside our house, at the pharmacy, in the car, and even in the woods. She was living a life I didn't know about, filled with lies and scandalous behavior. I went through her messages, and what I found was heartbreaking. I learned so much about myself in the process. The hardest thing was realizing that she didn't truly love me, not the way I thought she did. She was only staying with me for the sake of our daughter. Over the course of our marriage, she cheated on me around 30 times, and every time she lied and downplayed it, claiming it was only a couple of mistakes. She swore on our daughter's life that it would never happen again. But now, I'm lost. What should I do? Despite everything, I still love her, and I love our daughter too. I can't fathom walking away from them. But at the same time, I can't bring myself to forgive her either. My love for her is still there, but it's fading, slowly but surely. The more time goes on, the more I feel that it might disappear altogether if we keep living like this. I don't know if I can trust her again. What if she betrays me again? Should I gather the strength to end it now? At 29, I'm still young. Maybe I should look for someone new, someone who'll be faithful, someone who will truly love me and only me. I've come to terms with the fact that my wife no longer loves me, no matter what she says. Her words don't line up with her actions. I'm stuck in a place where I don't know how to move forward. I'm afraid to stay, but I'm also terrified to leave. What should I do?